Hey, greetings, Performance Reviews here. We give you the review from the technician's point of view. And today we have a RIccar N2200. That's right, this is a Taiwanese RIccar from, I can flip it over and look at the serial number real quick. Probably 90s. It's 8A, so that could be 98 or that could be 88. It's hard to say. I feel like 98 is probably closer. And this is RIccar America, made in Taiwan. And this machine, it's got some miles on it, but let's see if it plugs in and runs. That sounds like what it should. And these machines should not be loud or obnoxious or anything like that. This all looks great, actually, compared to the older one I had up on my bench. Let's take a look and see what's inside here and go from there. So you notice they put these big screws on there. It's supposed to be easier to service. You also notice the bumper came off. We'll pull the screws off, we'll put the bumper back on first. This is just gonna tuck in right there. Brush roller looks like it was replaced. It's a-okay. That belt is dry rotted to fuck. Throw that away. Everything else just looks pretty standard. Looks all right. You know just how easy all this is. Let's see. Careful of that. It's easy to snap those off. I didn't notice the light turned on, so we're gonna fire her up again. All right, the light did not turn on, so we'll address that. Pull that out. These machines were some of the first machines to really market a bypass machine successfully to Americans. There were the Panasonics, but these were pretty damn successful as well. I know there were others before it, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of machine up. Ain't that just like wonderfully complicated? Let's fix that. So that LED light, not only is it not going to get hot now, but that's a lot of light. This nozzle's fucking filthy. It's just fucking, and it's pretty normal for these machines to get this way. So yeah, we're probably gonna pull this apart. Let's see what the rest of it looks like. Yeah, the inside's pretty nasty too. All right, so let's pull the nozzle apart. This is a very, very quick process. That just comes off like that, and then this just slides there. That comes off, and now we're not home free yet. We still got some wires. See all the carbon dust? It's just, I should have put gloves on. You can see what I'm getting at here and why we're going to do what we're going to do. The Red pieces can't go in the dishwasher. Red plastic, when it heats up, gets deformed. It ain't right. So we're not going to put that in the dishwasher, but you can see the motor here. Did I unplug it? Yeah. It's just kind of real simple. Oh, this one was replaced. 98. Maybe it is a 98. Oh, questions. I don't have the answers to. So I thought I was going to have one of these up and running today. Nope. It looks like this is all coming apart, and I'm going to be washing some stuff. So, yep. Let's take the handle off. Handle has an interesting, well, I'll show you here in a minute. Somebody got creative with their fix on that. Ooh, maybe. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, there's a spring missing. Spoiler alert. Okay. So now, this has a dirt sensor actually on it. I didn't realize it had a sensor. So you got this, and then these resets. I believe this is a 98 then, if it has the reset. If there's a reset in this sensor, this would definitely, you can see that. All right. One of the wear pieces is this little plastic A-arm thing. I once sliced my thumb open on one of these that was sharper. The fuller brush ones, to be precise. We're going to get to brisson. Let's give it a nice bris. All right. If the wires do not make sense to you, take pictures. That's really all I need to know. So let's see here. Well, let's cut the one here. We'll cut that there. I hate that I had to cut that. Sometimes stuff does not fit in the dishwasher, and these big upright parts do not fit, so those had to be hand washed, unfortunately. My hands are still kind of pruny from it. It took me about 45 minutes to wash these clean. Alright, it's a new day and a new minute, so it's time to put this thing back together. I'm not going to bore you very long with this motor rebuild, but I greased the bearings on the motor, cleaned the armature, and this motor is from, what is it, 98. So, motor's a few years old. Actually, my nephew's about as old as this motor. And you can see his carbon brushes. These really are end-of-life carbon brushes. They have about so much more life left on them. But that's about the amount at max. I'm going to use this machine in my collection. It's going to stay in my collection. Maybe some collector might get it later or something. So I don't have a problem with doing that. Now, these are standard Amtech carbon brushes. You could, in theory, find these. The bearings don't feel too worn out, which usually by the time they get to this point they are, which is a testament to this motor made in the US. So the machine was made overseas and the motors were shipped overseas. So that's kind of a cool thing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this motor back together, and I'll turn the camera on once we're done with that. All right, it's time to put this little guy back together. I'm mostly happy with how everything is. We got this mess of screws to deal with, and there's some things here that are going to need to be like, let me find the word for it. Wired in, sorry. Having a presidential style brain fart there. Let's just put this in. So these resets sometimes go bad, rarely. A lot of times customers never knew this reset was there. This would happen even though there's a big sticker announcing what it's for. So many customers would never find it. So half the time a customer would bring this machine, no power, they'd be worried. We'd just wheel it in back and then reset it and call them up and quote them for a service. And that's just kind of how things would get done with this style of machine. So this guy, again, this is a common theme on RIccar. These, I don't know why they just didn't put a longer wire on there and crimp it right. Presumably they would be ordering enough of these from Amtech that they could have done that. So this is going to go on there. You just want to make sure these are really firm in there. Then all this is just going to slide. You're going to see these are just going to slide right into place. Oh, before I do on anything else, by the way. So the machine, I should have announced this. Let's undo that. I'm sorry, I'm doing it wrong. The wires actually go through this thing. So let's just pop all that through. Yeah, all this just fit through there. All right, so now we're kosher through this. All this shroud does is it's sound insulation, and as many of you know on the channel, I am really a fan of sound insulation on vacuums. I think that's like a necessary feature. It's always a shame to me when they don't have it. So I'm kind of glad that it has some sort of sound insulation in here. So yeah, I'm gonna be putting that back. A lot of vacuum techs would just throw this away, and that's very understandable. Especially, you know, when it really, like I said, it's only dealing with a minute amount of sound that it's deadening. It's not particularly great sound deadening material. But this machine being a 98, I think it can use everything it can get. So, and we'll put it just like so in there. Now these loose wires, we're going to address those here in just a minute. They actually are going to go on the other side. I am mistaken about that, but oh. So this guy has to go through here. Would be a rookie mistake. And that's probably one of the weird things about servicing this machine is when you service it, you do end up having to cut some sort of wire somewhere. So you can see where those were just leaching off that motor. So I'm going to give them a cut and we're going to strip those wires out. Goodbye. All right, I don't deal in this size of wire nut too often. Let's see, I might be able to get this guy in here. Let's see here. Yep, put some of those on there. That will be the appropriate size for what's in here. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the motor out again because it will be just easier to work with all this. All right, let's talk wiring on this machine because I started putting this together and I did a couple things wrong and I just want to address that. First off, you must put this lens in, thread the cable all the way through here first, and that includes through this. So that's an important step. The second, upon getting into this wiring, I found, here's what I found, and this is something to always take a look at. This was like melted and corroded, and you can see where oxygen got in and discolored this wire. This is a very unsafe thing. Anytime you see something like this, you need to replace it, and I so happen to have a proper replacement, easy enough to make. And the switch isn't a standard size, believe it or not. So the way you want to address that, it seems kind of ghetto. You just, so you give them a squeeze this way and give them a squeeze basically on all four sides, and then when you go to put the switch in, that's not going anywhere. So just a little quick, you know, thing when you're looking at machines. Oh, it says Deco Korea. That's kind of cool. That's something I want you to just look at if you're putting one of these together, especially a machine that's a 1998. You know, it's 22 years old. Wow, that makes me feel old. So anyways, I just wanted to address what I did off camera and where the wiring was on this machine because it was in an unsafe state, and I wasn't expecting that when I was putting this back together that I was going to be rewiring anything. I was not expecting that at all. I thought I'd be just putting wire nuts on, and I was looking at some of the stuff and just wanted to make sure it was safe. So I also went ahead and checked everything else properly with an ohms meter and just made sure I didn't see any visible signs of oxidization anywhere else. So it's just something I did off camera. And, you know, this is why if a customer comes in for a new cord, I might do it all the way, but I might not want to do it because, you know, things like this happen where you really are better off having the customer leave it and do a proper service so you can save things like that or look at the whole thing. Now we're putting everything back together, that motor, and this other wire. This has always bothered me that this was exposed. They could have molded this under this gasket and not exposed it. It's always bothered me. And then there's just a Hecko in here. And a little bit of air leaks there, and that's just the design of the machine. So let's get to the rest of wiring this bad boy up over here because it's got a few other features that I really like. Off camera, I just had to go grab this. This is something I cleaned in the dishwasher. And as always, hoses will hold water for days, so you want to just make sure it's clean on there. And there's just like a little gizmo that holds everything in place here, like so. That's not a problem. We'll talk about him later, but that's where this hose goes. So this is for the full bag check light. So let's wire this up. Like I said, everything's pretty straightforward, but all right. So went into the full bag check light. This is not an LED. This is before LEDs were really prominent. So I think that's kind of got some charm to it in this machine, at least. So the number one that I hate wiring up and doing is this one. These little wires. They don't always catch in the wire nut. So what I do is I double over the top of it in a U and then wire nut it. and then we'll put some electrical tape on that here in a minute. So we got the bag check wired in here, and then he wires in just over here. Just put them on the stack of wires like so. And there is everything that goes on with that. And like I said, some of these wire nuts are, yeah, see, this bag check always wants to snake out. So there's that. And then on this side, this is the side of that's switched. Where's the new wire I made? The switch. That all looks stunningly good. Right there. And then the switch wire, other half of the switch wire goes there. And that would turn everything on. Now the switch, we'll pull it all out of the way for a second. The switch goes into this little guy with this A-arm. You want to make sure there's not a flat spot on there because that basically wears out. And then the switch cradle is actually adjustable. Again, all this stuff seems nuts now, but it was, you know, kind of, I don't know, this was considered cheap at the time the way they did this. A lot of dealers thought these machines were cheap and not good machines. I actually really have always liked these, which is why I saved this when I saw it about to go to the dumpster. Let me put this thing in first. This is always, I never remember which way it goes. I think you're supposed to do this, question mark. No, it's the other way, yeah. So, and nothing ever wants to kind of like, you know, there's a lot of pieces to move around in this. Because it's very intricate and all this stuff is very brittle. All right, now it's in the hole. All right, so that's essentially how that goes. Now the switch, and this is why I haven't done anything else, is we're gonna put the switch in here. The switch just has these two long screws holding it in place. And they can be Phillips #1, or you can do what's it call it? You can do a Phillips #2. They're not picky. And then you just want to, now I've left this one loose, and I'll explain that one here in a second, and why we did that. First, let us, not everything's wired up, let's put some electrical tape over everything. Nice and taped down. That looks nice and safe. I'm happy to see that. Next, what I did do off camera is I did put a screw for the ground. This is a full bag check indicator. We'll adjust that here a little later in the video. The thing I do want to address is this guy, because it is a little strange. If this had a 3-prong cord, you use the top slot. If it had a 2-prong cord, you use the bottom slot. So you are going to have a screw left empty there. Just be aware of that and why that is. Since it is just like a little strange, so I want to point that out. And then he should be... where are the screws for him? Ah, there they are. And he's going to be the shorter kind of screws you have right here that go in this, like so. And that's what holds the cord in, so everything's good to go. We're not going to put the screws on this part yet because of that full bag check indicator, and we'll get into that a little later. Next, you're going to have some screws that are really weird. There. They're these. And these guys, I guess I could have done this first, but I didn't. But basically, these guys are what hold that metal bracket in place. Right here. There we go. And that metal black bracket, I couldn't really get the screwdriver in there. You can push the full bag check indicator out of the way. And then lock that in place. But basically this metal piece kind of floats in here. And I'll go into adjusting the rest of that later. But there's stuff you adjust in here. It's kind of different. This is still filthy. This went in the dishwasher and it's still filthy. Like the amount of carbon that's on this machine. It's just like absolute filth. And yeah. So that's gross. A little bit of pledge. And you can see where this goes. You basically line up the screws with that. Oh, I also washed this thing off, this black thing off, and I did glue it back in. And again, in the field, it's common for techs to just pull this out with a pair of needle nose through here and throw it away. That's absolutely acceptable. It's not going to hurt the machine. Again, that's just sound deadening. So then, as we put this together, and you don't want to just go screwing this one in first. You actually have to press. And the motor will fight you a little bit, the way the motor mounts are. So you might even have to reseat the motor mounts like I'm doing right now. With the way everything is. Ooh, glad I pulled that out of there. And then this guy just kind of, the permanent pre-motor filter just sits there. And then there'll be another one that goes across, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But again, if things are not seating right, look at this cable, look at some of the other things. There's a lot of little things to move out of position with this. And that's why I'm checking this as thoroughly. That needs a good tap. It does fit, but it needs just a good tap. The rubber mallet. There we go. That's seated with that. I scuffed it up doing that, but oh well. That's how the cookie crumbles. All right, so in these mess of screws, there should be some slightly longer ones that hold that cover in place. Right there. And another feature you'll notice is the screws have little locking teeth on them, which is cool. Excellent. All right, excellent. All that's in place. And there will be a slight gap on this, but not much. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting this back together. Before I do that, that's gonna get its own little bit of grease. Just right there. That will take some of the horrendous noise out of it. And then you have to be careful, but you do want to put a little bit of grease around there as well. I say like a little grease. That's probably too much. Because it is metal on plastic of this older one. The newer ones, they'd actually make like a little metal motor mount doodad that would go in there. All right. So we're gonna put this thing on first. And it's gonna, you wanna just lay it down like so. And I got some grease on the motor shaft, which I did not wanna do. Again, wipe off any excess on there. You want very little. Then that, you see this is gonna just all snap together. You see how that is? And then we're going to rotate this. And now we're going to flip this little door up and start putting the pieces back. And don't forget that thing. That thing is important. And yeah, there's the rag to prove that how fucking dirty that thing was. Basically what you want to do is you want to repack both the bearings. A lot of times this bearing's real shot because it's metal on metal essentially. You can take the race cover and switch them. That's a little trick you can do. Playing this is normal, but you can see where it just wears a groove in there. This is real important. This is what quiets down the brush roller a whole lot. So without that, the brush roller, without that felt piece, the brush roller will be really loud. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble the brush roller, which is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to speed up the footage here. And then the screws, it should be pretty obvious from here, but they're right there. We'll just do. And you can Loctite these. You always tighten these when you do a service. Beautiful. Now that they're a little loose, you put this on. Sometimes that piece needs to be reformed. We're gonna just put that as tight as that will go pretty much on that one. Everything there looks great. All that's nice and tight. Right there. Let's flip it over. Oh, we're gonna need to put this thing on. Let's do that. You're gonna have to excuse me. I had both the microphone battery die and the camera run out of SD cards. So I guess what I'll show you is we need to put this on. Use a number 6. Don't try to use a 2 or a 3 because it's just not gonna work in there. And this hose just goes in there. All this stuff is kind of self-explanatory. This guy right here, let's put him on. We're gonna leave the hose off for now so I can do a bag check test. And he goes on kind of canted on a slant. And then this goes on like so. And then you should have just a couple screws left that go in there. Ah. And you can see where the revision was for the previous bag dock system they used to use. You know what that's on. Okay, so next we're going to be doing this, and you use just HEPA bags. I'll put a link below to these. They're commonly available. So you want to put your new filter in there if you have one. Some of these are washable, some of them are not. But it just goes in there. And then this goes on as an airflow glide. And this basically allows you to use more of your vacuum bag is what this red piece does in practicality there. This just goes on, and it's a tight fit. If you just put it on like that, it's going to fall off. You have to make sure the cardboard's all the way down. So we're going to do that. And you'll feel the cardboard just stretch. There you go. It's back on there. It's flush with that. All right, so next we're just going to clip this on, like so. We're going to clip this on, just let it be held on with friction for a minute. And give me just a second. We're going to go down here and plug some things in. So this is the handle switch on this machine. You can put lubrication on here if you want. I'm not, it's not really necessary, but again, for that little A-arm. All right, we saw the full bag check was good. Now, if you're doing what I'm doing, you want to be real careful because this stuff is live. But I also confirmed that the switch was turning on and off, so I want to now tighten all the switch parts down right there. So that's the switch frame is now tightened as well. Those are the two things you want to confirm before you put these screws in this, and then this is just gonna rock on here. Why is it? It all clips together. Well, it should clip together. There you go. And just put your screws in. So let's give it a good test. Make sure everything else works. Again, that motor's pretty old. And I'll put a link below, but vac polish, really, really good stuff. If you want to know how to get them super, super shiny, you just rub this stuff in. It's kind of like wax that you want to rub it in with a lot of friction, and it just looks good afterwards. I think for 22 years old, that will do. On there. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you. Comment below if you have one of these. I'd love to hear from you. or I love, comment on it. Consider joining our Vacuum Talk Discord server, where we talk vacuums all day long. And if you really like what we do, check out our Patreon. I'm not allowed to link to that in the end card anymore, so that's going to be buried in the description somewhere. Always check the descriptions of my videos. I have a lot of good information in there. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a great day.